welcome to our video review of the Fanatec CSL Elite Racing Wheel. This is the PlayStation 4 specific version, as you might have noticed by the PlayStation button in the middle. There is also an Xbox One version which released last year, but the PS4 version is out this year. Now this is so high-end. Basically it costs more than your games console, however you want to set it up. This is the starter kit, which comes for €520, which saves €70 because you buy the wheelbase and the wheel and the pedals separately. We've also been sent the load cell kit, which is an extra pedal, and that's a much more accurate thing, which we'll get into, and that costs an extra €140. This is basically crazy high-end. This is the very, very tip-top if you want to get an absolute simulation experience with your video gaming. Naturally, as you'd expect for a top-end wheel, the wheelbase has got a belt drive inside it, and that means that there's a belt wrapped around a gear as opposed to having gears interlocked into one another. And this makes for a very, very smooth wheel-turning action. It can obviously rattle and rumble as it sees fit, which you will see at some point as we're racing. This is at least comparable, if not better, than the Thrustmaster T300 and T500, their top-end models, but I'd probably give it the edge to the Fanatec. It's difficult for me to definitively say, because it's been a couple of years since I used Thrustmaster T300, but there's just something about this wheel, like the whole package just feels that bit more premium. The Fanatec wheelbase itself is much nicer in design, and you've got kind of carbon fiber detailing down the sides, and it just has that extra feel. The wheel itself is also much nicer to hold. This is actual leather, this is actual suede on the wheel. All of these buttons are completely replaceable. You can just take this wheel off and switch it out for one which is designed after like the Formula One Ferrari wheel, for example. You know, there's so much that you can do to customize this, and this is absolutely for those that want to get the most simulation experience possible. The only thing I really don't like about it is this loose little crappy nubbin here instead of having a D-pad, and I'm just thinking, like, why not just give us a D-pad, for crying out loud? You've also got features such as there's a strip of lights for the revs on the wheelbase, and you've got a little, you'll see it in a second, you've got a little display here so that you can have the speedometer, and you've got an LED at the top, which is another little potential indicator for, you know, when you need to shift up and down. So these are the Elite pedals that come with the bundle, or can be bought separately. Now, these are by far and away the nicest default pedals that you'll get with any wheel, and that's because they cost an awful lot of money in and of their own right. By default you only get these two. This is the accelerator and this is the brake on the left, which is being repurposed as a clutch because you've got the load cell here, which is an additional expense, as I've said. Now this is all completely customizable because you've got this rubber strip which comes out, and then you've got all of these holes which all of the pedals bolt into. So this could be a couple of notches over to the right, they could all be close together. You know, you've got so much customizability within this. And this is what makes the load cell so very, very different. Behind the brake, you've just got this chunk of foam, and it means that, you know, to get down to there, it's not actually that difficult to do so. The load cell, all of this is a sensor. It detects the pressure that you're putting into it. I assume there's some kind of chip there. I'm not entirely sure how it's all laid out in here. But it detects the amount of pressure that you're putting into it, and if you switch these bits around, then you can actually, you know, increase the force that you need to put in or decrease the force that you need to put in. One of the fascinating things about all of this is that when you buy the load cell, you get a separate control unit here. And this has actually got a USB port on the side because you can actually just plug this straight into your PC if you want to, and you can actually use it then with other wheels, whether it's Thrustmaster or Logitech or whatever. You just need to install Fanatec's own drivers, or you can just plug it into the wheelbase, which is what you will have to do on Games Console. But as I said, there's a lot of effort that goes into this. It actually comes in 3 boxes because there is that modularity, and that's really emphasized all the way throughout. One of the things that you're encouraged to do when you get it is plug it into a PC and then update the firmware. And that adds its own quirks, because then the next time that you turn the wheel on, it goes not to the center point as you'd expect, it actually goes off to the side. And now it's just stuck at this angle. And one of the things that isn't made particularly clear on the website, but is actually explained in the manual, so you need to do checking in different places, is just how to reset this to the center point that you want. So what you need to do is you need to actually head into the wheels system setup tools. You've got different presets that you can change, and this is setup 1. You can change the sensitivity of the wheel, the force feedback, the ABS level, that kind of thing. And that is the brake force. There's lots of different things that you can tweak on the wheel itself, but also you need to be able to readjust and recenter the wheel. So you've got a little knob there, and you line that up to the top. You're in this tuning menu, and you press the option button and the cross button here, and then once you let go, then it resets, and that is now the center. So this is Assetto Corsa, and this is one of the games that really supports the wheel fully. You've got, for example, the speedometer in the top of the wheel, and you've also, when you get close to it, you've got the rev lights which indicate when you need to shift up. And so this means that, you know, in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, I've got the gear and the speedometer, and you can turn those things off a bit more and just get more of a purist view into the game, and just live by what is shown on this kind of dashboard, if you will. One thing I do want to show you is just how powerful this actually adds up to being. So I'm going to bin this into a wall intentionally and just demonstrate. So this is full lock, we're going full speed, and I'm now going to just let it go, and that is how fast it turns back to neutral and lets you get going on your way. Assetto Corsa is another good game because it also shows you the amount of force, and not force, but it shows you how active the brakes are, and the accelerator and the clutch, for example. And with the load cell, it's actually interesting how hard you need to push down in order to be able to fully put the brakes on. I'm really pressing, and so one of the things that I've actually taken to doing is, because I've got this on a wheel stand, I've actually got a sort of like a luggage belt holding my holding my chair in place, just so that I can properly push down and not worry about pushing myself away from the pedal. That's how hard I'm having to push it. So now this is Dirt 4, and this is another of the games that will support the Fanatec CSL Elite Racing Wheel from the off. And what's interesting though is the kind of variability in the support that you get, even with supposedly fully supported games. I'm not really paying too much attention on the actual rally, so excuse my driving again. You might be able to notice that neither the rev lights nor the speedometer are working on this particular game, which I think is a real shame, because, you know, again, this is another game where you could really go for the kind of authenticity, and don't crash. But there's still the kind of force feedback. It's actually not as strong in Dirt 4 as it is in Assetto Corsa by default, but you can obviously tweak that and change that to suit your wants and desires. One of the downsides to this wheel is that it doesn't have full support right out of the box across the full range of games. Where Logitech and Thrustmaster were fairly quick to get their wheels out with the custom chipsets that Sony had devised so that you could control the system software, for example, this is the first time that Fanatec have got actual PS4 support. Previously, you'd have to plug in the CSW2 wheel, and then you'd do nonsense with DualShock 4 as well, and a right pain in the backside. The two games that actually fully support this right now are Dirt 4 and Assetto Corsa. Those are the only two games. You do have, however, a way to turn this back into compatibility mode, which then unlocks the ability to play Dirt Rally, Project Cars, The Crew, F1 2015, and a bunch of others. Full support will obviously be coming to future games like Project Cars 2, F1 2017, and GT Sport, like the big three from this year. But for now, a lot of the time, if you're a big old racing fan, you're going to be stepping the wheel back into compatibility mode. And so the way that you do this is you load up the game, you get to the title screen, and then you press this big old mode button. And that changes the color of this LED light. Press it once and it goes into red, and this puts it into PC mode. Press it again and it goes, well, it combines the red and the blue and you get purpley pink. And this has now put it into compatibility mode. At this point, you cannot like press the PS button and take over the system, but you can now control the game. So you press X and this now loads up the game. Once you're in with Project Cars though, you've got again this kind of variability of support, which runs all the way through with this wheel, because even though it's in compatibility mode, for some reason it has the function so that you've got the rev lights and you've actually got a gear indicator up top here. It will also actually, if I get close enough, it will turn the light on the top of the wheel itself, which is quite a nice little twist. You know, the underlying thing is that you've got a fantastic racing wheel, and some of the bells and whistles, which aren't necessarily integral to the experience, are missing when you are in certain games. It's something that will be worked out over time with future games and future support, but it's a slightly disappointing fact in the here and now. Of course, one of the best and worst things about this wheel is that there's just so much modularity. That €520 outlay doesn't get you the load cell, for example. It only gets you the wheel and the basic 2-pedal system. If, for example, you're driving the classic Lamborghini, as I am here, you might really want to have a gear shifter. If you're doing rallying, you might want a physical handbrake, and you know, all of that really mounts up. So the €500 initial outlay is big, but it can get way bigger if you're happy for it to do so. Thanks for checking out our review of the Fanatec CSL Elite Racing Wheel for PlayStation 4, which I've avoided saying as long as I possibly could. I hope you found this video to be useful and instructive. I mean, this is possibly, almost certainly, the best wheel going on the market. You just need to have the money to actually buy it, and the desire to get the most out of it with playing tons and tons of racing games. But yeah, Fanatec have delivered a really fantastic wheel, which is very enjoyable. It's just, you know, so expensive, and it's up to you to be able to justify that to yourself or to your significant other. So I've been Teflon. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, share, and check out our written review over on the 6thAxis.com. Hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye.